Okay, this is Inventor 2020, and this is to talk about the pan and orbit tools. The pan is rather simple. We just select the tool, click on the item, and we can move it left and right, top and bottom. If we move it aside and then we want it to place it in the middle, we can just click home, and it returns to home. Now the orbit, it's a little bit different, and notice that there is a cross line in the middle and handles on their sides. Now, to best understand it, it's better to go to the top view first. And so we see the item is kind of center. Notice that the cross line is in the middle of the part, but I can change it. If I move it right here, click on it, then that would be the center of orbit. So that means that if I grab this handle on the bottom and I then move it up, it looks like it's orbiting vertically and it doesn't look bad. But if we do the right handle, notice that the item is going to be rotating based on that particular point or location, which is the cross line. Okay, so it's best to put it in the middle of the part, but let's go ahead and center it correctly. So, and if that part is and the cross line are at the center, then we can orbit around it in a more balanced way. Okay, so top and bottom. Okay, so now next, if we wanted to rotate around the circle in this case, or have the item that looks like it's going to rotate in its own axis in this front view, then we go into between the top and right side, and we can grab it from there and we can kind of rotate around it. Okay, like the wheel of a car. Okay, so now this is simple if we are in a top view. But what about if we are in a projection view? A projection view, it's a little bit different. So top and bottom axis, it's not going to change, so we can still kind of grab it and orbit around that axis. The axis is in the middle, but right, if we move, let's go ahead and go to in this position, which is kind of the projection. If we grab this right handle now, notice that it's going to rotate in a different kind of view. It presents us the item front in a projection view and then also the back in a projection view. Okay, that's not very intuitive, however, it is correct. Okay, so if we wanted to achieve a different view, then like a rotating its own axis, it's best to move into the constraint orbit. Now the constraint orbit, it constrains the orbiting of the item or our view to the middle of the part where it's located. So if I grab this handle now, notice that the item looks like it's rotating its own axis. And that might be nice and helpful when we wanted to explore different parts of the item or the part. Okay, so now also this will change, of course, if we grab it in between. Now this is one of those views that I find difficult to justify or control it, so I don't use it. I best like to use this. Now this is also tricky because if the item is in a view more or less like this, kind of more facing us, this could change. Notice that it is not rotating in its axis because the axis it's supposed to be facing up, and the part is actually mostly facing us. So in order to bring you down to it, let's put it back in a 3D, and now we can go back into that mode. Okay, so if we, for some reason, we move the part a little bit too much to here, to the front, and then we still wanted to have the part to rotate in its own axis, it's not going to happen. Okay, got to go back home, and then it's going to happen. Yeah, that's all it is. Orbit, free orbit, which is the first option, and orbit constraint to the center. Now, constraint is very important to remember that the X hairline right there is where it's going to be located. Okay, that's all it is. Thank you. Bye.